Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, once again to the StarCraft 2 World Championship Series here in Leipzig, Germany, as we make our way to group stage number 3 and find out who will be making it to that final bracket to determine the first WCS Circuit champion of 2018. I'm Nathanius, joined on the desk by Wardy and Rotterdam. We have a Terran versus Zerg coming up. How are you guys liking the matches so far today? How are you liking how Group Stage 3 is shaping up?
Well, I think Group Stage 3 is looking pretty incredible. Group Stage 2 is already stacked and so many big names already fallen down. And now we're at that point where the WCS Challenger players get to come out and play as well, which is always going to create some awesome games.
I'm pumped, Nate. I'm really pumped because these groups are, like Wardy said, they're all very stacked. And we've seen a couple of players perhaps already perform a little bit better than some people expected them to perform. One of these players we're going to see on the stage is awesome. Lambo finally having a really strong showing. It's very early in the tournament, I know, guys, but topping a group with players like Jon Snow, Nemchor, and Mana, that must make him feel really good. And he's probably all like, finally I've got the start in a tournament that I expect of myself. And I look at this group that we're currently looking at of Lambo. It has XY. Now, for me, that's a little bit of a wild card. You do see him in the Chinese events, but how often do we truly see him on the biggest stage? How well does he cope with traveling? How well does he cope with playing on the stage in Germany? Then it does have Neeb. Now, that's obviously one player of the highest category. But the other player in the group is Zenster, and I think Zenster is very strong. But is he better than Nemchor and Jon Snow? I don't know. So I look at this group and I'll be like, maybe Lambo can go even further than he's gone so far.
Yeah, things shaping up very interestingly. Out of the groups that we have all the players available for, Wardy, is there one that stands out to you as a favorite, or perhaps a group of death?
I mean, they're so tough. I think Group G is pretty amazing. Alaza, TLO, True, and Petit Drogo, because obviously Alaza's in there as the big favorite, but I think Drogo, True, and TLO are going to have a bit of a fight over that second place in the group. And especially with so many ZVZs, I mean, even Alaza might be in a little bit of trouble. So
that is a group where if you want to talk storylines, you know, which we often have to do a little bit, how many stories do you want in a group, Nate?
Yeah.
I mean, Drogo is still the reigning champion of Leipzig because we didn't have a WCS stop here last year. But of course, Drogo was the champion in 2016. TLO, born and raised in Leipzig. True, the only non-Korean. I mean, maybe Masa, but Masa really feels Canadian to me. But True, of course, you know, he lives in America. We spent so much time in Korea. And then you've got Alaza, the only player besides Neeb to win a WCS Circuit stop last year. So that is a really cool group. Besides that, I want to highlight Group A. Not because I necessarily want to cast all those games, but I am very interested in the result. Group A has Nemchor, Scarlet, Stefano, and Serral. I mean, that's a lot of ZVZ, but a couple of very top-notch ZVZs as well.
Yeah, a lot of very good players. We are ready to introduce the players for our first match of Group Stage 3. XY going up against Lambo. Anna's on the stage. How have you been enjoying the games yourself so far here in Leipzig?
Oh man, this has been so much fun getting to watch StarCraft again backstage and have all of us yelling together. And the games just don't stop getting better and better, and the stories don't stop happening.
Are you still in control of everything, though?
I can't quite hear you, but I think you must have said something interesting.
I was wondering if you're still in control of all your emotions.
Oh, no, I would say my emotions are, in fact, uncontrollable. But let's get into this match, because like I said, there's some good stories happening here. We have XY from China, and he's a long-standing member of that community, beat some real top dogs to qualify and to get here, but like you said, he's a wild card. And then we also have his opponent, Lambo from Germany, who's had great results online, but will he be able to translate those to a live environment? So now it's time to find out in this TvZ. Let's welcome XY and Lambo.
Waving his hands up in the air, trying to get a little bit of the blood pumping in the crowd, of course. Being in Germany, the German player is going to get a little bit more of the love, I'd imagine.
For sure. I really wonder what we're going to see out of our Chinese Terran here. He's one of those guys that impressed me a lot, like 2 years ago when I casted one of the IEMs in Shanghai. Had a great showing, but then it feels like a lot of those Chinese players, he kind of disappeared for a little while, and that's weird. We had Tudming for a while, really looked like he was making that final step to be a top foreigner, kind of dropped off. We have Iasono, absolutely fantastic from time to time, taking out GSL champions, but then the next time he falls against B-tier Europeans. So what kind of an XY are we going to see here today? I have absolutely no idea, but I am excited.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see him play TvZ because he took down some of those Zerg players you just mentioned on his way to qualify for this event. He took down Iasono in the group stages, then Jigre and Tudming on the way as well. So his TvZ seems pretty good. And last time I saw XY playing, he's playing some crazy aggressive styles as well, some unique 2-base all-ins and all sorts.
I actually think this is a premiere, by the way, because I don't think we ever had 3 Chinese players in the round of 32 of a WCS Circuit event. I mean, often, of course, you have the qualifiers, and then you get 2 of them. Sometimes we even had some bad luck, and one of them couldn't make it. But we had Cyan coming through the open bracket.
Yeah.
And Cyan is a beast, guys. That's one of those Protoss players that obviously flies on the radar a little bit, but if you keep a close eye on some of these Chinese tournaments, he's made it into the final. So I would say that this is a really big evening for the Chinese scene in StarCraft 2. They've got 3 guys in the round of 32. We're going to start things off with XY. I can't wait to see how they perform.
Yeah, you were talking about the aggressive strategies coming out of XY. Do you think that that puts him in a good position against the European Zergs, or?
I just think it makes it very difficult for Lambo, right? Because he's the one who's going to have to scout, he's going to have to react, and he can't let anything slip up, because all of a sudden, if 4 Hellions are in his mineral line, he's going to be losing drones, and if those Hellbats start morphing in, he doesn't have a Baneling nest ready, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. And that's what XY I think is so good at doing, creating kind of chaotic games that people just aren't used to dealing with all the time.
Puts the pressure on his enemy, to say the least, and Lambo, then it remains on him to kind of steer things into that longer sort of game, Kev.
And also stay calm. I think for Lambo, it's very important to stay calm in this, not only in this series, but in this group overall. I definitely feel that no matter how talented and how good I think he is still a little bit emotional. And I think often if he drops the first game, he definitely performs worse in the second one as well. Like, it starts going into his head. So if Lambo gets off a good start here, I do believe that he can cruise to a victory. But, I mean, it's so hard to predict how XY is going to play. I just don't know. I mean, almost all of the Europeans play mech. Does he play mech as well? Is he going to play bio? Is Lambo going to be comfortable with going up against a Chinese Terran playing bio? Like, how many times has Lambo been in this position?
Yeah, it makes up for an exciting matchup, and we are ready to get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy. It's going to be XY versus Lambo.
All right, guys, we are heating things up for this TvZ. I am Maynard, with me is Todd, and we're going to bring you the action of this clash of regions in my favorite matchup in the game. China versus Germany versus EU. Todd, talk to me about this series.
Only in the WCS would you really see those 2 countries clash against one another. And I think this is going to make for a dynamic matchup, because Lambo has been playing pretty well, but XY, you know, as mentioned, did pretty well against Zerg in his regional qualifiers. So let's jump into it, Maynard.
All right, in the bottom right here, representing Invictus Gaming, this is XY. And in the top left, representing Clash, this is the German Zerg, Lambo. Has that home crowd behind him, no surprises there. And he'd be looking to put on a good showing here for his first series on stage of the day.
Yeah, Lambo historically hasn't always played up to his full potential in tournaments. I really feel I feel strongly about this. You know, on ladder, he's a very scary guy who's had high MMR multiple times. So it needs to start translating that a little bit more to some tournament results. And what better way here to start the year with a big performance if he could get just that. But now he gets a test early on in that group stage 3 against the Chinese Terran, who you must not know that much about. And there is not that much content either, you know, to study for this kind of matchup.
They've never faced each other before, so they have made history right now by hitting each other up. XY, of course, from Chinese region, faces your Ayasonus, your Shiguas quite often, and they are not your regular run-of-the-mill Zergs. These people do weird stuff that you're not used to seeing as a Terran. A lot of XY's games, no doubt, would have to be reactive against those kind of Zergs, which means that he probably has a few tricky builds up his sleeve. Like, whether he goes standard here is going to be a big question in my mind, because Lambo, to me, is that standard Zerg player. He is the guy that wants to play your quote-unquote regular ZVT, your Ling Bane Hydra, and just make it work no matter what. If someone like XY really just catches him but with something crazy, I feel like that's the potential weakness for XY to upset here, because I do favor Lambo in this series.
Chinese players, usually, no matter what the race, they have one thing in common, is that they love aggression. They attack more so than most other people, but as Terran, can you really attack that much in a Terran versus Zerg? Like, you know, what is he gonna do? Pull SCVs and attack? No, probably not. So I expect fairly standard play, to be honest. Just bio him to keep on taking bases, and then just kind of move across the map, do the regular attacks that we see, do some drops here and there, and yeah, just try to inflict some damage onto Lambo before he can get to some sort of hype tech.
Oh, Lambo's going for a pretty quick third hatchery here. As XY's going for a very regular TvZ opening. He's made his fast factory, went gas first. He's got his 22 gas down as well, so looking like he's going to go into Hellions and then start to pressure and own that map a little bit from the Zerg. But the Zerg's already taken that third base, not even 3 minutes in. Like, it's a third of the way done. So Lambo being very, very greedy, not afraid of anything except for Hellions at this point. So and Hellions are not going to shoot down that hatchery.
And an Overlord being forced on safe grounds here. That's not going to allow Lambo to scout at all, but there's nothing being disguised here by XY. You know, it's not like he went for an armory to get some Hellbats or anything. Like he could be going for a Banshee.
He may still be going for that armory. We'll see from XY. It could be hitting soon. We do have the Tech Lab going down, so Banshee play absolutely could be on the cards here. Hellbat Banshee with Cloak, something very, very scary for Zerg to deal with. No doubt Lambo's dealt with it once or twice before. And there's the switch over. So the XY's going to be starting to head out on the map with those Hellions to try and slow down Lambo, who is starting to spiral out of control. He's got that third base finishing up now. He's done nothing but drones and made Queens for a while. Not overcommitting to Lings or anything like that.
Hey, how about Catalyst in TvZ? Like, how do you find the map being a Terran player yourself?
I actually, like, a lot of people have told me that they don't really care for it. It's not really super interesting. Like, it's well balanced and they don't mind it overall. But as far as the map goes, it's not interesting. But I actually have, like, the opposite. Like, this map always creates fun and great games for me. I have insane late game on this map. I have insane holds against cheese. Everything that you want in StarCraft 2, this map's delivered for me in my ladder session. And there's the armory going down for XY. So the Hellbats will be a little bit delayed, but they will be coming on strong with that Cloak Banshee.
Maybe there'll be more of them because of that.
Yes,
because
definitely.
he keeps on making Hellions very consistently there, keeping up with the SCV production as well here, those XY.
Yeah, Bailey Ness is on the way, and that is the basically what you want here against those Hellbats, to splash damage them. Of course, it's up to XY to split those things on creep against those Banelings, who will be slow. But Lambo is almost certainly heading towards Lingbane Hydra. He just loves it in this matchup. And XY just using that third to block the ramp.
Getting supply blocked at the wrong time here. It actually starts 5 drones. Oh my god, Lambo. Does he actually know what's coming?
Well,
here?
this hits quite a bit later, like you mentioned. You know, you were expecting an armory a lot earlier, but this is hitting on quite a lot later. So there will be a lot more Hellbats.
He's still making drones.
He's still, yeah. I mean, maybe Lambo misreading this a little bit. Maybe not expecting Hellbats, but
he's not respecting it, is what he's doing.
Oh yeah, you can see he doesn't have any inclination. This tech, he hasn't been making a ton of queens either. He only has 3 of these fighting queens here outside of those hatcheries. That will lose to Hellbats, Todd. That is not that many queens.
Yeah, but it looks like XY wants to fly the Banshee elsewhere here towards maybe the main base to try and snipe some drones there. Actually, no, that's the Viking here, taking out some more Overlords. So I guess the Liberator will fly into the main base and start sniping drones there. If most of the queens are around the third base and there is only 1 in the main, then it's gonna cause problems for Lambo. Like, obviously, he can move his spore. And we have mech play here out of the Chinese player. I didn't expect this. I thought it was gonna be bio, but he's like, you know what?
Yeah.
Maybe just bust out some mech.
When you think aggressive Terran, you think bio, right? Like dropship play, Marines all in several mineral lines at once. There's the Hellbat attack from XY on the right here. Unfortunately, you know, it doesn't have a huge number of Hellbats all together in one place, so Lambo does win this fight. This Liberator being quite nice, but is just repositioning it here. XY just trying to do drone damage what he can. The Hellion's nowhere near the mineral lines.
Lambo got supply blocked again, though, because he lost 1 more Overlord to his Viking, who's still going to work just right below this location. That one Viking. Putting in that overtime.
Wow,
now already 5 kills.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
500 minerals of Overlords here. And XY is heading towards, like he's up, you know, he's looking quite nice in supply here. And he's heading towards that Thor drop phase of the mech game. Baneling's looking for that Hellbat connection. Splits from XY, good enough to keep a couple of them alive, but he should be able to clean this up.
Yeah, minimal splits here for XY. We'll have some of these Hellbats stay alive here for now. But double armor upgrades here against the Zerg, who's not necessarily upgrading that much here.
He might even be on a single Levo chamber. He does have 2, but only upgrading on the 1 so far. There's that Hydra Den going down. So Lingbane Hydra on the menu here for Lambo, who's droning again like a madman as that 4th hatchery finishes up.
What composition here do you want to go into if you're going mech? Like, do you add tanks or do you stay on Thors? And
you hope that your Thor harassment does some work, and you definitely want to pepper in those tanks, because tanks are going to be your answer against those Hydralisks.
Cyclones or not?
Pardon?
Cyclones as well?
Nah, you don't really want Cyclones. You want Blue Flame Hellions to deal with the Lings and the Banes and the Hydras, because they do that extra splash damage against light, and you want those tanks to be doing that heavy hitting damage from the back lines.
All right, is Lambo going to be ready for this? Because right now I see 24 army supply, and he's getting more Lings. So as much as, obviously, you know, they can be high numbers, get a false around on this army and all, it is still a very, very scary army here that we have from XY, kind of being out on the map and looking for some aggression. He's going to drop the main base, I think, with the Thors.
Oh yeah, the two Thors are heading into the main. It's all up to the Hydralisks to deal with this. That is why they exist in this composition. And the Queen's very hurt, so she'll die immediately. And the Thors are sort of trying to do what they can. The Ling's actually pretty annoying for the Thors. They had that low rate of fire, but they hit so very hard. Some hatcheries, some fresh hatched Hydras shooting at those Thors and ejecting them from that main base. And Hive starting now for Lambo. We've got transformation servos going down for XY, so his Hellions and also Thors will switch a little bit quicker, and the Vikings will jump up and down a lot quicker. But Blue Flame finishing up now means the Hellions are a little bit scarier now for Lambo. There is a window for XY to do a bit of damage for this push.
Yeah, and he's going to look just for that here. Not sitting on his side of the map, not waiting to build up a huge army. He wants to do damage right now. He thinks that he has enough. He does have a pretty scary army, but Lambo is going to take his time. He's going to try to come in from multiple sides to try and clean the army up here from the Terran.
Now, Lambo doesn't have a ton of army supply here. It's a little bit choked up at the top. Remember, these tanks are heavy hitting from the back. They are 1-1 tanks here, and the Hellbats are keeping the Hydras away from that tank line. The Queen's not able to get in range of them either. Tanks doing tons of damage from the back, and the Thor's doing the same thing. But here come the Banelings getting rid of those Hellbats, and Lambo is closing the distance.
And those tanks, they were left untouched for most of the fight here. Lambo trying to split as much as he can so that they don't kill everything. And he's going to end up cleaning up here very nicely. It looks scary for a second, but Lambo, he lost a lot, but as long as he saves the fourth base,
yeah, that was
preserves his economy, he's all right.
We just showed the reserve that he's not efficiently trading, but the real story was keeping that fourth alive, keeping all those drones alive. He's at that 80 drone count or thereabouts, where you really want to stop droning against the Zerg and just start teching and making units.
But 2-2's on the way for XY, and it's about to finish. So that's going to be trouble, I think, for Lambo, who is trailing very far behind on the upgrades. He starts to Spire already now.
Yeah, and Lambo's getting ready, making extra evolution chambers here so that his Vipers have structures to be able to get their energy sucked out of. So they're going to get ready to get to part of this fight. As you know, the mech army is going to scale very, very nicely. Like you mentioned, these upgrades are really great for XY. These tanks are going to be very, very powerful.
You know, I've seen mech in this position like multiple times in the past against Zerg, and sometimes like some big blinding clouds land. The mech army gets cleaned up and that's it, you know, that's the game over. So XY, I guess he's supposed to kind of realize that there are Vipers and then spread out his tanks enough so that it doesn't happen, because I've seen this scenario almost every time that mech comes out against Zerg.
Yeah, you have to basically spread your tanks out, not clump them up ever, because the Vipers can blinding cloud them so efficiently and easily, and that's why XY is also producing Vikings. Yes, Thors are great against Broodlords and can pick up Vipers with their long range, but it's all about those Vikings, and a lovely amount of Hellions going down to that Lynx around. Somehow, like, Lambo's upgrades don't look very impressive, and his Lings don't have Adrenal or anything like that yet, but they are just getting the job done. Or maybe they do have Adrenal now, but they, no, they don't. So he's not even started it.
XY overextended a bit. Big scan here, actually. Sees the Greater Spires, so he knows there is a sense of urgency. You know, obviously, you can't let the opponent get to Broodlords without either doing an attack before they're here or getting Vikings. And it looks like from XY, it's going to be the earlier. He looks to try and be aggressive. Before there are a couple of ducks here. Those Vikings here are going to be used.
Yeah, only gets one of those Vikings. The others are still alive, and that's why they're here. They're trying to pick off those Vipers, or at least make them use that energy, because it's all about keeping the tanks and these expensive mech units alive. Because, like you mentioned, if they get blinding clouded and cleaned up, that's pretty much it for the mech player. It's hard to replenish this army, whereas the Zerg, they pull up that lava and they have those banks, and they usually are able to remax their armies. Although Lambo's bank isn't impressive at the moment, because he's been making a lot of units in tech.
I love that. The Hellions were going to go actually big engagement in the middle here.
Yeah, blinding clouds in those first few tanks, but there's a lot of tanks still in the back here for XY. Is there enough from Lambo to close this distance? I don't think so. The tanks are doing quite a good job here for XY with the two upgrades. They smashed the Hydras, and Lambo has to pull back on a creep.
Yeah, there was no blinding clouds left over, and when you have this many tanks, I think it was like 7 or 8 here in the back, all shooting at once on those Hydralisks. That was doing so much damage. Now XY smells blood in the water. He knows that he's killed a lot, so he's going to move in position. Those Evos even playing against Lambo right now.
Yeah,
they set up properly to engage into this.
Yeah, they are kind of setting up a little bit of choke point, and Lambo doesn't actually have a ton of army supply to be able to flank this, which is really one of the ways you want to be able to deal with this. Lambo's kind of stuck up here with all these queens on the top of this ramp. This fourth hatchery is in so much danger.
Yeah, Lambo, I like the choice of evacuating that one base here. He's got Broodlords on the way now. He resaturated on the top right. He's still on 4 bases. As long as he can clean up this army with the Broodlords, he might be okay, but there are Vikings left over. He's getting Quints to reinforce and transfuse, keep his Broodlords alive at any cost, getting Corruptors
that is
as well.
smart. But XY is on 5 bases back at home if we look at base count, and that is devastating for the Zerg if he doesn't take an incredible engagement here. XY is actually looking at a very favorable position considering 3-3 is about to finish. That armor goes to his air units as well, so they're a little bit tanky as well.
And for Lambo to hold on here is going to be very tough against this army. Look at the spread on the tanks.
Yeah.
It's beautiful as well. How are you supposed to land a perfect planning cloud? Especially like there are Vikings and Thors covering this army too.
And there's no Vipers at the moment for Lambo either, so even Blinding Cloud's not being a part of the battle. It's all up to these Broodlords and the Queens here for Lambo. XY with a very devastating looking push here, potentially game-ending. The Hydras are coming in looking for those Viking kills. They do get a couple of them, but these tanks are doing incredible damage from the back. The Broodlords are forcing XY to unsiege and move back though.
Yeah, the Corruptor is jumping on top of these Vikings here. They've already cleaned most of them. Lambo is not going to try not to let these tanks get away here. He wants to make sure he kills that. And then the tank outs could hardly be replenished, and then he will rule on the ground with enough Hydralisks potentially. But XY, it looks like he's going to be able to pull back with enough of his army here. He's regrouping, he's remaking Thors, he's getting some Cyclone as well, and Vikings to deal with his Broodlords.
The Cyclones don't really make sense to me at all because they're not really good against anything that Lambo has right now. But they are on the way regardless for XY with 3-3, so maybe they hit pretty hard. He's getting the anti-air upgrade for the Cyclones as well. He's trying to deal with Broodlords with the Cyclones here? What? The Corruptors are moving forward, they're pushing into these Vikings. And the Broodlords are doing sick damage here for Lambo, oh my god. XY giving up the ground here for this base at the front.
Yeah, these Broodlords are running him over. Even Queens marching across the map, babysitting these Broodlords, making sure that they can use transfusions just on time to make sure that they can keep them alive. Who's sieging who now?
The Broodlings doing so much damage here for Lambo. The unit of choice getting the job done. He's been carving into this Viking count without the big number of Thors to take down those Broodlords. XY is just starting to bleed his army to pieces. They're sieging, and yes, they'll get rid of the Hydralisks, but the Broodlords and Corruptors are still owning the skies, Todd. This is looking rough for XY.
Yeah, the Broodlords and the Broodlings mostly are a big problem for XY, who's just starting to run out of units. Even if he barely holds on here, he's already lost so much. And now Lambo's going to be the one on 5 bases against 4.
Unsurprising to see the Cyclones, even with their upgrade not even finished yet, they are very much not winning the battle here against these Broodlords. And XY has given up so much ground. He's lost a base at the front. He's been knocked down to 4 bases. Equal bases with Lambo trying to retake that hatchery at the front. The Broodlords and Corruptors don't look like they can be contended with. It's up to these Thors with their high-impact payload mode to get rid of them, but they're not in range.
Yeah, he's trying to repair as well, but those Broodlords doing such a good job positionally, moving back, making sure that these Thors are going to be blocking one another. And Lambo really making the most of this army here. It's been beautiful how he's escorted those Broodlords with everything else that he has, and made sure that they never really got attacked or killed.
Yeah, I mean, the Thors are trying to do what they can, but Lambo's very devastating air Zerg army is still doing the job. The Queens are here as well. They're just out of transfuse energy, and with these Hydras on the buffer at the front, it looks like Lambo's going to take this one. He was pushed against the ropes on the other side of the map, but he is taking the fight to XY right now. And he says, Auf Wiedersehen, mein Lieber, to this Chinese Terran for game 1. Well played, Lambo. It looked very dicey for him when he lost that hatchery in the front. Like, XY was up a base. He had a 3-3 mech army, but the Broodlords really came in clutch for them. Definitely the MVP unit for him in this game.
I don't think he lost a single Broodlord there, to be honest.
Maybe one.
Yeah.
And the Cyclone thing, again, I have to bring up, is a very confusing choice. Like, Cyclone's anti-air, even with 3-3, just doesn't make sense. I mean, at that point, it looked like he'd been broken. It was a critical massive Zerg. Like, he just didn't. If you're up against Broodlords like that, you want to have a high Thor count with high impact payload because their anti-air is really nice, or you want a big ball of Vikings. But Lambo was very smartly getting rid of the Viking count with his Hydras and Abducts. He was able to.
He evacuated that 5th base. That was the big move, I think, from Lambo, where I think he realized that XY was like, "I'm gonna kill you before the Broodlords can have any impact on this game."
Yeah.
And Lambo was like, "Nope. I evacuate my 5th base if you chase me on the high ground. I'm going to be well set up to receive you. And then if you let me get Broodlords, it's the same story. Like, I'm going to be able to do really well." And XY not going for additional starports, putting all his eggs in one basket, saying, "I'm going to win with these mech units on the ground and with a couple of Vikings that I already have." That just didn't work.
He had very few Thors and not that many, like, not a big Viking count either with that push. So it was all about those tanks getting the job done. And yes, tanks are amazing against things on the ground, but Broodlords, they don't care about tanks. Not even a little bit. So they just push them all the way back. They love them, in fact. Yeah, I mean, if you have Broodlords and the Terrans still making tanks, you say, yes, please, continue to make those units.
Don't mind if I do.
Don't mind if I... Yes, tanks. All right, so Lambo up 1 game in the series. It looked a little dicey for him. It's good to see that XY can take the fight to him, because I honestly felt like Lambo is just heavily favored, but XY with some mech play, which we also didn't expect.
He looks very proud of himself.
He does,
here.
actually, yeah.
This is the best kind of game to win. You know, you're on the ropes and then you come back and win in beautiful fashion.
That's it, man. And we're going to Backwater by the looks of things for game number 2. Pretty much my favorite new map here in the pool for this season. In the bottom right here, from China, this is IG's XY. And the top left, currently up 1 game of the series. This is Clash's Lambo. Faster than Lambo, look at those hands.
He's a fast player. Like all the top Zergs nowadays, they've just reached an insane level of speeds. They inject so well, they do everything so well, quick spread and all that. And you can tell, like with the armies that they get out, you know, like it's almost suffocating. You know, sometimes you face one of these guys, you're like doing a good job of killing a few units here and there, but they always end up having a massive army, and they've got so good at engagements as well. Once upon a time, just a very few players were able to do that. You know, like we would look at what's happened last game, how Lambo pulled back and decided not to take the fight and be like, okay, only the absolute worst best player can do that. But now a lot of players have realized, you know, like you need to pick your fights in StarCraft 2 because you don't have to take every single one of them.
I agree with you. And Lambo has missed a standard, and honestly, I think he would face mech a lot in his regular practice. Expecting, like, I would imagine him faces mech more than bioplay on the European ladder. A lot of the European Terrans like to mech in TvZ. So you could see that he really was very comfortable in that game towards the end. Even though we were getting worried for him, Lambo kept his cool, managed to win the game in the end. Backwater, by the way, just to talk about the map real quick, has a really interesting feature. The natural is very wide open, but you have a very safe third base. So look at that big gap there for the natural base. But you know, that third base is not generally going to be taken by a Zerg. The one to the south, though, is very safe. There's no entrance to this base on the ground.
Yeah.
Except you have to go through the natural to get here.
I mean, from Medivacs dropping, maybe it will be a little bit harder, but obviously you can, you know, do stuff like having some overlords around it. The Krish spread is going to play a big role as well. And as long as you have enough on the ground and in position, you shouldn't be taking any damage from there. So we'll see if XY busts out some more mech, or if it's a little bit more of the bio that we've seen time and time again.
To me, in my mind, I mentioned it in Game 1 before Game 1 started, and I'm going to reiterate it again for Game 2. I think you know, Lambo is so strong in regular TvZ play, and that was a pretty regular TvZ game, the mech play. I think XY really has to try and pull the wool over his eyes to try and win him in this game, and I think this is definitely something that could do it. An on-location third CC at the back, utilizing the map advantage here because he knows that is a very, very safe base to take. He does, however, need units to hold that natural wall because it is very, very open.
Yeah, Lambo not really putting any effort into trying to scout that just yet. His second overlord is kind of headed towards there. I guess if you see that quick a third CC, you know you can be greedier than otherwise. You know, like it's going to be very hard for the opponent to have a timely starport or any kind of armory and hellbat, so you can cut corners and get even more drones than you usually would, which I think Lambo would be pretty happy with when he sees that.
See, the XY did notice that third hatchery go down, and Lambo is about to see that third CC.
Where's his overlord? Lambo, 44 out of 44.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotta get that Roddy coaching, bro.
No, the hatchery will give him some supply in a second, so he is going to be blocked for a little second there. Todd's always looking at the supply, guys.
Yeah, you can bet I am. Where are the overlords, though?
Yeah, they do need to come. Losing that Reaper there, so XY losing his scouting potential and his map control for now. The overlords are on the way now for Lambo.
How many is he gonna get? 3?
I mean, yeah, the hatchery will give him some supply, but the overlords need to do the rest. Whoopsie daisies. Ooh. Now Lambo sees that faster third CC, and he's going to try and punish him here.
Actually, he hasn't seen it yet. He was just going to drop anyway. This is very strong on this map because you need to cover so much space where you won't have vision. You know, you can't really afford to get a depot up there this early on. So he's hoping to surprise XY, but it looks like XY actually just pulled back on time to kind of wait for this. I guess he must know about the timing where links could be dropped and attack him.
Possibly. He does have a couple Hellions which can fight this with good micro, but Lambo comes in, he picks off an SCV, breaks off some of the links, goes towards the natural. XY does have these Hellions in position. They do come to fight now. So I can't see Lambo getting a ton done with this, but the Marines on the ramp should do the rest. Getting in the main. Base. Lovely scout.
He wants to see everything there is to see here. He's going to be able to spot the E-base as well. Knows about how much XY can produce, you know, in the next few minutes. and what he would be threatened by. And then he can decide exactly what to go into. And listen, when you go for quick thirds, sure, you're building up your own economy, but the Zerg can do the exact same thing, which is always so scary, and that's what Lambo has done here.
Yeah, Lambo is very safe to take a fourth base, and he's doing exactly that here at the just to the left of his, to the right rather, of his main base. And XY going for bio placed him just about to finish up, only making those first couple of Hellions, not even sending them across the map, leaving them at home because he's afraid of the Ling drop again. He hasn't got Vikings or anything to deal with that Overlord very safely, and looks like this is sort of the Chinese TvZ that I expected to see. A lot of drop play, a lot of Marines, and multitask.
Yeah, Baning Nest finally goes down here for Lambo, so I'm guessing a Hydralisk then will go down when he reaches lair, and then just kind of Hydra link Bane.
Yeah.
Maybe into a lot of aggression himself, because this creep spread hasn't been denied, so he would have a lot of speed up to a certain point on the map. And the way, you know, like the main base is far away from the third, there is no ramp technically around the natural, and the third is very droppable as well. That might be...
Are you looking at it? Are you looking at it? He's blocked again, and there's a drop about to happen here. He's got 10 Lings on the way, but if these Medivacs unload, he's gonna need those Banelings to position
making one
do a
overload
lot of
well.
damage.
Come on, Lambo, you better do this.
Being a meanie. The Hellions winning the battle in the middle there, so the dropships will go through. Lambo, he actually hasn't seen them at all just yet.
The 73 drones is nice, but if you die, well, while having that, it's obviously not going to be good, but he's getting links now. Morphing in Banelings as well. That one overload beautifully placed. He's going to spot those two Medivacs here. He's going to get in position to receive that.
Yeah, I mean, if these Medivacs unload, though, they can absolutely fight Ling and Bane, depending on their numbers. They're stimming on in into the main base. Let's see how much damage this drop can get done. Couple of Banelings moving in, but that's not enough. Lambo knows this. Here come the rest, though.
Oh, and XY positioning himself brilliantly here.
Target fire on the Banelings.
Oh, they're blocking themselves. He could have targeted more. The Links were at the front. He didn't want to risk it. Maybe it's like one of those moves where he's used to playing with lag. He's like, I'm not going to risk that with lag.
It's actually,
guess what? There is not much of that here.
He's actually in a little bit of a rough spot here. There's a lot of Queens waiting for those Medivacs to go past. Oh, those pickoffs! He gets the Infestation Pit as well. That's actually quite a bit of resources there for Lambo taken out.
Yeah, those Marines again will target one or two Banelings before picking up. Is this the double fake again? Does he go towards the other base but then drops into
That's actually really sick to straight up kill the Hydra Den and the Infestation Pit. No cancels. That's a lot of money. And also slows down his tech as well.
And Lambo hasn't restarted, by the way.
No, yeah, and he needs those. He wants that Hive. He wants the Hydra Den. I mean, how do you deal with these Medivacs with, you know, yes, Queens are quite nice, but when there's two Medivacs hitting you from two spots or four in total, like it starts to spiral out of control.
Yeah, Infestation Pit and Hydra Den being restarted. 2-2 on the way here for XY, who's adding one more factory on top of his production right now. Well set up on 3 bases, 66 walkers to 75.
Lambo's not cutting any corners here. He's got multiple Spore Crawlers there in the third base, and the main covered with so many Lings and Banes.
Listen, when you've had maps before, like Vanny, Nimbus, and all that, in the map pool, when you have this kind of base, you reinforce it. You get some static defense. That's how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Enough games have been thrown, Maynard, in the past.
Yeah, Lambo was a veteran of those maps. I'm sure there's the Hive on the way, Hydras are on the way. But the upgrades are quite a bit an advantage here for XY, so there is a timing for him to be able to do something. But a lot of these Marines getting caught down here. One of the Medivacs looked like got picked off as well. That second one nearly dies.
This Queen's South, long way from home, by the way. Very far away.
Yeah, they're on walkabout.
In a puddle of water, trying to deal with some Medivacs.
In the backwater. So there's this push here from XY, and Lambo sees it all coming with his pre-spread. There's tanks this time for XY. Lambo's army count's not too shabby, and this position's a little bit of a choke point for the Terran, though. The Zerg, it's going to be tough for him to gauge into here efficiently.
XY is trying to be all over the place right now, but that drop will finally be defended there. As Lambo will try and look to set up to defend that location here. Using the tanks very effectively here to cover a lot of ground and try and force a poor engagement from Lambo.
Well, Lambo is clearing up some of these Marines that have been ferried into the back of his third. This tank was in range of that Spore Crawler, so one of the Spores does go down. And XY is breaking the defenses of Lambo, but Lambo's coming with a ton of Zerg units on the ground. These tanks do not have much of a Marine buffer, and there are a ton of Hydras and Banes.
And Lambo will get the cleanup he was looking for. Did lose 5 drone though and prevented some.
Oh no, the Medivac's dying. This really sucks for XY when you're going bio and you don't have that many Medivacs. It really takes the wind out of your sails. He's only got 2 Medivacs right now, Todd.
Yeah, this is not good here. He's gonna have to replace that here in a second. And Lambo might go for the counter-attack here. Happy with the cleanup that he got. He's got some great production. Lots of Hydra still alive. Banelings are gonna start on rolling forward. There's just so many of them. Can tanks and Marines deal with them?
Well, actually, yes. That was an overextension there from Lambo. The spread was good enough for these Marines, and the Banelings weren't high enough in count to connect with those juicy Marine clusters. So a lot of army supply of XY is left, and yeah, he was way off creep there. He really thought he had that one, like way more army supply advantage than he absolutely had there. Ultras are on the way, so that will change things next time he wants to go off creep. It's around, you know, when you're at that 10 and a bit minute mark, you need to start producing anti-ultraless countermeasures. That means Marauders, it means Liberators, it means Ghosts, something. Because if you're still making Marine tank against a guy that's getting Ultras, you're going to have a bad time, Todd.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. It's not easy or possible at all, really.
No.
With this
I mean, the Marines heal Ultralisks when they have their full upgrades. It's actually insane.
That's true.
We have the Queens and Hydras in position. Oh, those medevacs! Oh, XY! Oh! Feels bad, man. That medevac is so
away,
hurt.
But I mean,
yeah,
when Queen will slap it down.
Yeah, exactly. It can't go anywhere anymore. It's just going to get sniped immediately.
In enemy territory.
Deep behind enemy lines. Well, XY is pushing from the south, trying for the ferry tactics once again. Does find an opening. The tanks are sieging on that static defense.
That's a lot of tanks. It's a scary timing here. Before Ultras are there, but I mean, Lambo has so many Lynx, Banes, and Hydras that he might be able to engage head-on into this.
Well, XY also doesn't have 3-3 finish just yet, so there is an opening for Lambo to take an engagement. Oh, that spread of tanks is quite juicy. A couple of blinding clouds would be nice here for Lambo. He does lose that hatchery as well, so that's big to pick off for XY.
XY's army is massive, 127 to 90.
Here come the blinding clouds, and this is the point for Lambo to close the jaws of Zerg here, and he absolutely does. Not enough tanks for XY to get the job done. Getting that hatchery is nice, but there's a lot more hatcheries where that's left over for Lambo. He is around about equal in supply at the moment, but he can replenish. The Ultras are about to have their upgrades, and the Ultras are about to hit the field. He's a little bit light on minerals, though, is Lambo, so it's tough for him to make those Ultras. They are very expensive.
XY is massively on top of his production, by the way. Look at this. He already assembled a massive army back at home. 3-3 just finished for him. He's going for a Ghost Academy. He's covering all of his bases. After losing to Warlords in the last game, he's like, you know what? I don't want to lose to anything surprising. I don't want to lose to any kind of infectious shenanigans. Vipers also going to be some trouble, so...
I feel like Ghosts are even preferable to Liberators at this point because they do have the ability, like you mentioned, to take out the Broodlords as well as, you know, deal with the Vipers, whether it be by snipes or EMPs, and snipe those Ultralisks. And with the counter iteration of the Ghosts, if you spam that snipe ability and the Ultra dies, the ones that haven't sniped yet get their energy back. So Ghosts are quite powerful at this point in TvZ.
XY has been applying so much pressure this game. Only now does Lambo start adrenal glands. And XY is trying to prevent him from getting to enough Ultralisks here to deal with this really well. And even if Lambo cleans up this army, I mean, again, he's losing another hatchery. That's going to weaken his economy. Well, XY still would be able to remake a big army. Here we go with another engagement.
Oh, the blinding clouds are actually all over the bio as well, causing XY to give up a lot of ground here. Lambo will get rid of these tanks, which is very important. But this Marauder drop in the main, there's a lot of critical tech here, including the Ultra Cavern. He's targeting it down, and he does get it. No more Ultras on the field for Lambo for a little while here.
And XY is getting decent trades all over the place. He's shutting down so much of the economy of Lambo. That was the Hydra Den I think he killed just right there. Lambo having to re-expand on his other base here on the bottom left. He's killed 2 Hydra Dens.
Yeah, killed that first one on the main earlier and then the second one just now.
Lambo's upgrades are so low as well. He's only got +2 melee and +1 missile. I guess +3 car base is nice, but XY is 3-3. And he keeps on producing a massive army. Like, not very high on the medevac count, but I don't even think that's that much of a big deal here.
Yeah, it's actually all about having Ghosts out now. He wants to have a big number of Ghosts. This little cluster of bio gets caught by Lambo and easily disposed of. And then, oh, nearly gets rid of another medevac here. Would have knocked down XY to 3 medevacs.
By the way, the medevac at the top left is still there. Finally now,
move away. Marauders. Brothers in arms, they're getting so much done here for XY.
Lambo might be getting a little bit desperate here because of his economy being hit all over the place. And here it is once again. Drones attacking into 3-3 bio? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, Lambo's not taking a good trade here. And you're absolutely right, Todd. His economy is the problem right now for Lambo. He doesn't have a ton of drones. He doesn't have a ton of minerals. He can't afford the Ultras. Even though he has the Ultra Cavern remade, he can't make it anyway, even if he gets sniped. Baneling's rolling in, but massive snipes from XY. All over these Ultras, and there's a planetary here as well. This is not going to go well for Lambo. I think that XY has finally got a map on the board here, Todd. And Lambo is running out of steam. GG! Tied up the series. XY with a brilliant game on Backwater. And the Ghosts really showed their power there in the late stages of that game. we've got ourselves a series on our hands, as I like to say when it's 2 apiece. You're going into the third map.
XY equalizing the score here, and with style as well. Getting in Lambo's face the entire game, dropping all over the place, sniping key bases, key buildings, applying a lot of pressure, and Lambo eventually he just cracked under the pressure here. He did a good job of kind of holding on for a long time, but it starts adding up at some point, you know, when you lose all of these buildings, these bases, drones, and he wasn't really doing any economic damage himself on the other side of the map. You know, XY was left alone for the most part.
Yeah, so it is the top 32 right now. These players are in the money, they're in the points, but they want to get much deeper than this. What's 100 points when you could have 300, Todd? What's 1,250 when you could have 6,500 if you make that top bucket?
It's nothing, as you would
That's
say.
nothing, exactly. But XY and Lambo going to the third map for the decider here. Ah, man, I have to commend XY for that game. Like, Lambo really felt like he had it in the bag. You could see it with his movements, with his army going deep off creep, with his banelings and his hydralisks shortly after he cleaned up XY at his tank position. But then XY kept his composure, which is so hard to do on a big stage like this. XY hasn't had that stage experience like Lambo has. And
Made your Terran heart beat fast?
it did. My Terran blood beating through my veins, getting really hyped here for some sick plays, which XY certainly delivered with. Keeping his composure on stage and just and making very few mistakes in the late stages of that game, which is exactly what StarCraft's all about.
Yeah, I would say definitely played more solid than the previous game. Like previous game,
Absolutely.
he was like, I'm gonna attack and finish you before Bullords, and he was maybe almost surprised that Lambo was just so solid that he pulled back from the 5th base and said like, okay, I'm gonna wait until I have Bullords, force a bad engagement from you, clean you up, and then counter-attack and kill you.
Wow.
This time around, XY was like, I'm gonna apply a lot of pressure and keep on doing the right transitions that I need. Eventually got to Ghost, and that last fight was pretty one-sided, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, nothing gets me more excited than an deciding map when 2 players are very clearly equally matched. In the bottom right here from IG, this is XY! He's starting to win a little bit more in the crowd, game by game. Whoop.
It's a little better.
In the top left, from Clash, the German Zerg, this is Lambo! Todd, it feels so good to have WCS back again. Starting the
does.
season again.
Yeah.
Feels good, man.
German player on stage in Germany. Always cool to see here, and Lambo, I'm sure he would love to get a win here. XY in the last game, he really showed that he's very good in the matchup. You know, it was mentioned on the desk. To come here to qualify for this tournament, XY beat the 3 best Chinese Zergs. That was Ayasunu, Tunming, and Shigua, so
Yeah, quite solid Zergs. Very, very scary Zergs.
definitely really good in the matchup. He only lost 2 times in the grand finals.
I remember how insanely good Ayasonu was in Shanghai, which felt like not that long ago as well.
Yeah.
But, oh man, so XY has definitely earned his place, but I gotta say, Neon Violet Square is a little bit of a rough map for Bio Tank, which a lot of Terrans do in this matchup, if they don't go mech. Even mech stage, like the little dance floor squares in the middle of the map make things tough for tanks. Tanks have to go around that. They don't fit inside of it. And the Zergs generally have a great time when engagements come down into the middle of this map. So it is a little bit tough, I feel, in TvZ. So I would say that this is, as far as map goes, a favorable map for Lambo.
I think last game, the Zergling drop really didn't do much. XY was just ready for it. You know, he kept his aliens at home. At first, he looked a little bit funny because, you know, he lost 2 SCVs that was barely reacting on a natural. But for Zerg, it's always such a big investment to skip drones and make units instead. And then even investing now, you know, into a quick evo and then morphing a drop lord. So I don't think Lambo has to do this kind of stuff. Just play the more economic game, you know, build up that drone counts, defend a little bit better. Don't lose your Hydra Den and infestation pits, you know, to 2 medivacs that you clearly can't see because you got overlords and units right there. And he should be fine if he's able to do this.
Yeah, losing, it's hard to, like, so much happened in that last game that you really forget things like the fact that getting that infestation pit and Hydralisk Den sniped immediately after they were dropped down actually really sucked for Lambo because it took him a while to remake it. Like, not having those Hydras out and in high enough numbers to get those trades happening.
And he's actually opening Pneumatized Carapace here, is Lambo.
Yeah.
That's because it's kind of hard to scout that pocket expansion, and some Terrans, they use that to their advantage, especially if they think that a Zerg is going to be convinced that they're going to attack it. They actually drop an armory down there instead. And it's like the opposite, right? He's not playing the economy. is playing the Hellbat aggression. So you want to make sure that you know exactly what you're up against, and in this case, Lambo getting that, he's going to be able to fly across the entire base of XY, know that there's no very quick third CC, and see everything that he has to go up against, and he needs to be getting ready to defend.
Sometimes when you see that pocket third in the back corner there, that sometimes tells you that it's going to be mech play as well, because there's, you know, a full yield of gas, which is primarily what mech needs, and only half the mineral patches. You don't really need those minerals. You need that gas for the mech units. And this is looking very similar to the build in game one with the, you know, with the starport getting dropped on that tech lab. Cloak coming down with Viking first. All pretty standard. It's not a fake out or anything like that. That Cloak will finish up when he makes a Banshee next. First Reaper and a couple of Hellions here from XY, just trying to see what he can see, maybe do a little bit of damage here and there, but Lambo is looking pretty solid. And XY is taking this back third, so that kind of tells me that he wants to go mech here.
Yeah, Lambo not even considering that, you know, he went for the other one, for the other base. He's going to be able to get the perfect scout here on that third CC starting on location. Can already start thinking, you know, about what you just mentioned. If it were to be mech, maybe probably, I would say just follow up scout all the time. See what he's up against. Obviously, if there is a lot of Marines, don't fly into them all the time, but yeah, double armory to the back of the middle line.
Yeah,
Ideally for Lambo, he would like to scout that as soon as possible so he can start reacting even more to it, which, I mean, a lot of the time, once upon a time, you'd always used to see roaches, right, as a counter to mech, but nowadays with Hydras being as good as they are, you don't always necessarily have to go for roaches.
Oh, Lambo's crossing his T's and dotting his I's here, getting those spore crawlers up because he knows that there is, you know, the potential of a Hellbat Banshee push right now. And if you don't respect the Banelings, if you don't respect the Banshees, rather, it's quite tough. The Baneling nest, like you mentioned, yeah, just starting now.
I guess against the initial Hellbat push, you know, it can be helpful to have a couple Banes, but you don't want to be messing Banelings against mech play. You know, like it's other units that you're going to need. So we'll see. I think the follow-up scout is about to fly in for Lambo at the bottom, which is huge. Like he sees it decently early, you know, not as soon as it started, but early enough that he's going to know what's happening. Scouts the additional factories as well.
Yep, so mech play is going to happen here for XY. Keep in mind that the middle of the map is a little bit tough for the mech player. He's generally going to want to attack around the outside or pick his engagements very carefully in the middle. And there's that first Cloak Banshee coming in. It is in detection range of that Spore Crawler, and with the Queen helping out, this Banshee not getting a ton done. Does find a little pocket where it can evade that detection of Lambo. Gets 4 drone kills and counting, getting 5 in total. Good Banshee for XY so far.
I guess sieging the 4th base eventually. Nice snipe, by the way, by Lambo. Bringing the Queens +1 over here. But yeah, sieging the 4th base of Zerg is going to be key here for Terran to find some success. Obviously, you have the very safe 3 base, but that's from the moment you take a 4th base that it's going to be starting to be a bit more difficult. Ooh. And for XY, it's probably going to be the one on the left-hand side of his natural base that he's going to take. Yeah, that one with the Planetary Fortress, especially if he wants to siege forward, because then his units will have to go through there anyway. That would make this base even safer. Yeah,
I think that base makes a lot of sense. It's very, if you take the 4th to the north of where the natural is, it's very weak to run by us, because there's a big open space for Zerg to run in there with a ton of units. And we see the Thor drop here for XY happening, just like game 1. You know, a lot of Terrans will do this. See the reactor finishing up that starport for the double medevacs, starting just now. XY's Viking didn't get 5 overlords like it did last game. It's just got the 2, but it is still quite nice. And this Banshee not as effective as his sister earlier in the game that got 6 drones. This one hasn't gotten anything done just yet.
Yeah, Lambo, we saw him reaching Broodlords earlier on when he was facing mech, but in this game it feels like the part where he reaches Vipers is going to be very important for him to, you know, to be able to do well and defend in. And XY, he showed the previous time that he went mech that he's so good at splitting his tanks properly so that, you know, a single or 2 blinding clouds wouldn't kind of wreck his entire army for him to lose the game instantly. So I hope we kind of see those situations again and see if he can handle them as well. You mentioned the overlay of the map in the middle, kind of making it tricky for him, you know, to move into that location.
It is a bit tough. Properly. Well, the Hellions do fit, but tanks don't. That's the kind of small thing. And oh man, XY actually started the anti-air upgrade for the Cyclones, and then cancelled it.
That's a lot of Hellions.
Yeah, that is a ton of Hellions.
This is the Fury Roads on the Unviolent Square.
If only they had those skins. Maybe super Mad Max style. Oh man, they're getting caught on siege here. And here come the Banelings rolling on in. XY hasn't got tons of splits, and there are a lot of Hydras here with Queens to transfuse as well. I don't know if XY can take this fight at all, Todd.
Yeah, I mean, he can evacuate with the Thors here eventually. This reminds me of Protoss. Yeah. You go in with charge loss and Archons, and then when the charge loss expires, just pick up the Archons and leave.
This is actually a nice position, though, for XY to be able to dart around with these medevacs. Obviously, Lambo's army is on the ground, needs to take a walk around if they want to get into these medevacs, and XY can just pick off and boost out of there. Oop, these Hydras. don't quite catch the medevacs. Looks like they're going to escape.
Smart service is now on the way. It's going to
Yep.
be able to morph these Hellions into Hellbats even quicker, but yet the Spire and the Hive are as well. And Lambo, he took a big supply lead here with that defense. We saw what magic he can make happen with the Broodlords and how good he is with them. So X1 needs to be careful. Like, you don't want, you know, to lose the same game twice in a best
Yeah,
of
that's
3,
right.
because that would be meaning losing the series.
I mean, the big adjustment here for XY is just to prioritize making tons more Vikings. Like, respect the Broodlords. Don't.
2 additional starports, I guess, if you
I mean, even just one more additional starport. I'm not sure if he had more than one starport in game 1. So.
Last time he had a perfect scan to see this coming, by the way, which I don't think he's had so far in this game. The drop at the top.
Oh no, that's
Lambo is
actually
so
terrible.
good. At this, it keeps happening as well.
Oh, he's at least saved one of those medevacs with Authority, but there goes the harassment potential for XY, except for Hellion run-bys. That's all he can do now. And he hasn't seen the Hive or anything just yet. Lambo's in a pretty nice spot here. It's not like there's a push kind of happening at him while he's desperately trying to get Broodlords out. He's actually very comfortable on over 80 drones at the moment.
It's so smart by Lambo because he sees the entire bottom left of the map. So he's like, you know what? The one place he could go is the top right. He sends his Hydras there and he catches medivacs. Like, it's beautifully done. Like, he's always fishing for the snipes and he gets a lot of
Well, there's a donation to the Feed Lambo Foundation. And these Blue Flame Hellions are coming into the drone line, but they flew over so much creep that Lambo's had years to it feels like, to be able to react to this, and he does.
Sees the Greater Spire now and gets the bad news. We'll see how XY reacts.
Yeah,
I
and
guess
instantly a second starport.
Yeah.
He's got to respect these Broodlords.
probably slow down the game this time around. Like, can he do a push before they're here? I mean, with the supply that he has and all the units that he's been kind of, you know, donating, as you mentioned. But as well be a tier 3 sub by now.
Well, maybe after this tournament, XY will go to Lambo's stream and get to become a tier 3 sub. We have the mech push here, and it is quite substantial. You know, it's about 89, 90 army supply worth of stuff. But that's, I mean, Lambo is off creep, but that is a lot of Zerg, and that is a lot of Broodlords. And these Queens are going to keep those Broodlords safe against the Vikings.
Yeah, they got quite a few transfuses. XY probably can't believe that he was going to go for a timing against this. He has to pull back, he has to regroup, get more force, but he's getting Hellions and tanks right now on top of the Vikings that he's getting, and that gold base
Oh man, I
will
don't
be
like this
sieged
at all.
immediately.
Oh man, if only Lambo had a couple Vipers here to blinding cloud those tanks, that is an easy pickoff right here. The Vikings are high enough in counters. He's desperately missing Vipers, actually. Like, the Vipers would make a huge difference for Lambo right now.
Oh my god, those Broodlings standing on top of the tanks. The German anti-mech efficiency showing up here.
Well, I mean, the Vikings are thinning out these Broodlord counts, but the transfusions have been pretty nice here for Lambo. And he feels like he's got this one to continue this push, and it looks like he's absolutely right. The tanks are just getting completely decimated by the Broodlords. The Queens keep the Broodlords alive all by themselves without the Vipers there to Parasitic Bomb or Blinding Cloud. They don't even need to be in this army. Lambo is up 70-odd, 80-odd army supply and just continuing to pressure XY. And because he's going mech, he can't replenish his army. He only has 2 Vikings and 67 SCVs, Todd. How does he win this game? It's looking all but over, unfortunately, for the Chinese Terran. Lambo continuing to press the issue. He's set his rally points on the heart of the Terran, and he is holding whichever button he wants to replenish with whatever he wants, because he absolutely has this game by the ropes. This Planetary trying to hold on. Lambo just rallying in whatever he wants. Corruptors, Queens, Hydras, oh my, it does not matter. XY cannot replenish units fast enough. He's making Vikings as fast as he can, but the Corruptors are picking them out of the sky. He's making tanks as fast as he can, but the Broodlords are picking them up from the sky as well. I just don't see an opening for XY here.
Maybe smart service would allow these Vikings to transform into Tempests, Maynard, but other than that, it's going to be pretty tough.
It's one hell of an upgrade. The Corruptors still winning this fight in the sky. They have +1 attack as well, so they are hitting very, very hard. The Planetary goes down. Oh, it's about to go down, rather. SCV's trying to do their best, but it is it's just a time point at this stage of the game, and Lambo's cracking XY's defenses. That's going to be it. A valiant effort from XY, but Lambo comes up on top with a 2-1 victory. Well played, Lambo. XY could not make it happen in Game 1 or Game 3. A very strong bio performance on Backwater. But that map and that game from Lambo just proving a little bit too strong for him in this game. Very nicely done.
Quite convincing against mech.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said after Game 1, I think that a lot of Lambo's practice would be a lot of mech CVT. Because, you know, your players like, you know, your Thermals, Optimus, etc. are going to be playing those mech styles. But a well-earned victory, and XY does lose first series. And we're just about ready to head on a stage with Anna and our Victor Lambo for an interview.
Thanks. I am here with Lambo. How are you feeling after that series?
I'm feeling pretty good. I actually had no clue how good he was, so I was literally going into this like a ladder game against a barcode. And yeah, it worked out.
Yeah, we were talking about how your opponent was kind of a wild card here and wondering if you knew anything coming into the match. You're saying that you didn't really know what you were about to face?
Yeah, I knew since like half an hour that I was gonna play him, and like I asked some players if they knew anything about him, and everyone basically just said no. Like I didn't even know if he can play mech or bio or anything, so yeah.
So now what have you learned? Tell us about the series from your perspective.
Well, I just approach it with, I try to scout a bit with Ling run bys and stuff and just play reactive. And it just, like the first game it went pretty well, and then I decided to fight off creep because I thought I was further ahead than I actually was. But then came back with Broodlords because he didn't have enough anti-air. And then the second game, he played a bit greedy, and I'm not even sure if it's safe on the map, but he kind of outplayed me there with the drops. And I also took a bad engagement off creep, and then the third map I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna play defensive and get Broodlords, like in game one, as soon as I scouted the mech.
And it ultimately worked out very well for you. You are emerging victorious, and you are here on your home turf. Is there anything that you'd like to say to your fans here in Germany?
Ja, thanks everyone for watching. Danke, vor allem auch an die Live-Audience, und ihr seid klasse. You guys are awesome.
Let's hear it one more time for Lambo. And now back to you at the desk.
Thank you very much, Anna, and congratulations to Lambo taking that series. I think the closest match that we've had today on the main stream, as XY was not able to topple this Zerg player with his mech. Of course, this game, that game 2 was so nice, but the anti-air, a huge issue for him, getting blindsided by those Broodlords in the first and third map.
It really feels as though he just didn't adapt after game 1 in his mech play, because game 2 was actually great, right? He completely changed it up, and he looked so good playing the bio. I thought a Neon Violet Square, another larger map where getting towards Ghost Lib can be very possible for him, which is what he kind of went for in game number 2. But then he played mech again. It's like, okay, well, you played a mech game, it was actually very close, but you just lost out a Brood, so surely you can fix that, but he just did not have an answer.
I do felt in game number 2 that supply block that Lambo had was massive.
Yes.
And especially at that phase in the game, 44 supply, that's when your build is supposed to run smooth. Because everything that hurts you in that phase in the game, that's going to snowball for the next 4 or 5 minutes. If you hit a supply block at 156, it's not that big of a deal. You queue up 7 overlords and then you just max out. But in that phase, you need that extra overlord, you need those extra drones. Every second you don't have it, it means that that economy that's supposed to snowball and go faster and faster is slowed down that much, and it really makes it hurts you for the next few minutes in that game. So I think that was kind of a crucial mistake, but overall, I enjoyed the games, and I'm still impressed with the performance that XY, I want to say TY for some reason, that XY put up there. These Chinese players today, I have high hopes and expectations of them, because Cyan is an absolute beast, and a lot of people say that Time is the best of the three. And if Time is like way better than Cyan, and Cyan is perhaps on the same level as XY, they're all looking really good, and that's awesome to see.
Yeah, it was a fun match to watch in the backstage. I have to say, you know, the Hellion run by in that third game, I thought he saw a glimpse of the Corruptors coming out, but he still had the siege tanks coming, and I was really hoping for, as you said, Wardy, the adaptation in that series. But game 2 was certainly the highlight one there for him. But we've had some interesting games. That was quite a series. I know you've been following a TVP here, Roddy. How's this one been?
Yeah, we could perhaps take a look at it even, actually, because we're reaching a kind of crucial phase in the game, and it's a funny matchup as well. It's Kalazur versus Showtime. The score is 1-1 each. I don't think this game is going to end anytime soon, but we're looking at Showtime's point of view. So far, everything looks all right for the German Protoss. He's up 15 workers. This is that phase in the game where normally all you need to do is survive, and so far he is surviving. The reason why I think it's a funny matchup, Nate, is that if we go back to last year, WCS Yon Chopping, these two faced off twice. At first, Kalazur beat him in the opening match, and then they had the Deciders match as well, and then he beat Showtime again. And that was the first WCS event where he didn't make the playoffs, because we started off last year in Austin, and you know, Austin was an all right run for Showtime. Quarterfinals, lost to Neep, but that was kind of the beginning of that slump that he found himself in, losing twice to Kalazur. So I'll keep a close eye on it. Other than that, real quick, I also watched Harstem versus Nice, the Taiwanese Protoss that is in this group as well. Harstem won 2-0, but in both games, Nice was was actually pretty far ahead, but perhaps a lack of experience, he couldn't close it out. Kind of threw away a pretty big lead in both games.
Yep. Were you able to see anything interesting on your side, Wardy?
Yeah, I had Petit Drogo versus True, and True took it down 2-0, but there was really a massive turnaround in game 2, which I can show just quickly here if we get the chance. But basically, True is what I think is completely dead. We have Drogo, he's just picked off the third base. He didn't have a great start, but hits just before True gets muted. He's like, okay, I think you don't really have enough to fight at all. So he starts fighting these spines, but the transfusers come through, and then all of a sudden, Drogo's like, oh, I don't have enough force fields, and he loses everything, and True just turns this one completely 180.
That was 74 supply against 42 supply.
Yeah, this was like over, and True just took the one fight that kept him in this.
Pretty sick games happening. We do have the group standings to show you guys everything that has been going on throughout the course of this last match that we were taking a peek at. Namshur and Cyril leading their groups. Scarlet and Stefano down. They're going to have to face each other for the elimination match.
I think Cyril beating Stefano, not a massive upset, but damn impressive by Namshur to take out Scarlet 2-0. Of course, we all talk about Scarlet's victory over Rogue. Well, Namshur shows us this is Europe, and Europe Zergs are also pretty damn strong.
Masa and Sorda will be going up against each other in their winter match. And that's going to be a pretty awesome Terran versus Zerg series. Bly will face off against Euthermal. Cyan and Probe going down in that group.
Okay, so these Chinese players struggling a little bit in the other groups. In this group, we had Heistem, like I said, taking out Nice. And, well, Showtime versus Kalazur Game 3 is still going on. But definitely a couple of noteworthy results there. Also, Bly Thermal's a winner's match.
Great matchups being set up here as we move forward. And, of course, Champ will be going up against Hero Marine. Nurchio going down in that group to start
Hero
things
Marine
off as well.
Hero Marine 2 old Nurture. I think Hero Marine Big Gabe is in good shape. Like, obviously, we expect a lot of like a Hero Marine in the German WCS event, but he looks really good. And he's been really crushing on the ladder as well. Don't be fooled by those Protoss grinds. Hero Marine is in good shape.
Yeah, really awesome play from our German competitors here. Special and Snoot going up against each other. I think a real hallmark match out of that group. And then a Laser versus True. Drogo and TLO both dropping down to face off in an elimination match in that group.
Yeah, TLO took a map off of a Laser, though, which I think is already very impressive. And, well, I think he can do anything in that group. I really do still feel like True, Drogo, and TLO are still the ones to fight it out there.
Yeah.
I want to give a really quick update about Game 3, Kalazur Showtime. It's not over yet, but nukes are on the way. And it's 181 supply against 184 supply. So, Nate, if you would stall a little bit longer, we may get a nuke live on air.
Yeah, it did just finish. He's making a big push. Probably
we should
actually look at that.
Let's take a look at it real quick, because we can. If we go to my laptop right now, even a couple of the SCVs are joining in the mix as well. We've got Ghost in the mix. We've got Liberators. This could very well be the ending of Game 3 between Kalazur and Showtime. Showtime is maxed out. Doesn't have thermal lens yet though, and that's a lot of Widow Mines as well.
It's a good step up by the Stalkers to grab one of the Liberators. Oh, does he have? He has 2 ghosts. I'm waiting to see if that nuke comes into play.
I haven't seen that red dot yet. I'm like a kitty right now, looking for it.
Oh, there it is. So he's trying to use the nuke to create a little bit of space for the army. And that's Protoss Death Ball's getting a little bit close. Oh, I think he got the ghost.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
That's always a shame.
No nuke on stream.
I think every second that goes by is really good for Showtime, because look at these Colossus. It's very marine heavy as well. A couple of great force fields, and I think this could very well be the end of Kalazur, as those force fields were a little too good. We've got a good old Terran barbecue here.
Well, that was painful to watch. Why'd you pull that up on stream, Roddy? How'd you do that to me?
I have the feeling that we just haven't seen that many Terran armies die lately against Protoss, so I thought I'd give the people what they want.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that. We'll have our next matchup soon, but first we're going to go to a break. We'll be right back. You are watching the World Championship Series Leipzig. It's going to be Bly versus Euthermal.